Brand new tonight, George Papadopolous now says that he is willing to testify before Congress to explain his story in an attempt to clear his name. The former low-level Trump campaign aide got caught up in Mueller's Russia probe after some bizarre circumstances and a questionable cast of characters. Papadopolous, who was sentenced last week to 2 weeks in prison for lying to the investigators, tweeted this, quote, "Honorables, Senator Burr and Mark Warner, if my lawyers are fine with me testifying, I am more than happy to discuss my suspicious encounters with Alexander Downer, U.S. officials who were reaching out to me around that time, Stefan Halper, Putin's niece, and, of course, Joseph Mifsud." Here now, Jason Chaffetz is the former House Oversight Committee chairman and a Fox News contributor, and Julian Epstein is former staff director at the House Oversight Committee and Democratic strategist. Julian Epstein, excuse me. Great to see both of you tonight. I want to start by playing this because, you know, when you go through the background of this and how he was approached by these people and how they were all just sort of like about 2 weeks apart and suddenly getting to know this person they never knew before. He wasn't sure why they were all reaching out to him suddenly. Here's what he said when Sean Hannity asked him if he thought he was being set up.
Do you think you were set up?
I met all these random people in London. London was a very strange city for me during those months. That's where I met the professor. I met Downer there. I met Halper there.
We all learned you like gin and tonics, and you were a little drunk when you were talking to Downer.
You know what's interesting about that, Sean? I've never, admitted to remembering anything talk about that. I remember a lot about that meeting. I remember the context about that meeting, and it was done under extremely suspicious circumstances.
Julian, what do you think about all that?
Look, I think there are good pushbacks for the Trump team on the Russia investigation. I think the best pushback is that there's no evidence that President Trump had advanced knowledge of any criminal activity. I think having George Papadopolous out there is not a very good pushback. We know from numerous published reports that when he was a foreign policy advisor to the campaign that he was in regular touch with the Russians through at least 2 different surrogates who were professors. We know that they told him about the criminal activities relating to hacked emails. We know he lied about it to the FBI, for which he was prosecuted. No less than authority, President Trump has said that he's a liar. I just think the idea that he would go up onto Capitol Hill now and start getting grilled about when he got the information from the Russians in April of 2016 that they had planned or were planning to hack DNC and Clinton emails illegally, who did he share that information with? I just think that's a bad place for the Trump administration
I hear what you're saying. I also think that it's hard to look at this story and not have questions about the other side of the equation and the origins of the investigation, which we were told started in the summer, but these contacts happened in the spring, and a number of these individuals, Halper was working for the FBI during the campaign at different points. You have studied the deep state, Jason, quite in depth. You wrote a book on it. Do you see anything here or not?
I think that Congress should hear him out. He's not a very credible witness. I mean, he's now guilty of lying to federal investigators. So anything he says, no matter how you want the investigation to go, is not going to go well. But what is fundamentally wrong, where Congress does need to look at, is the timeline that the FBI has laid out to Congress, because that does not add up. The meetings, Papadopoulos strikes me as very young, naive, and you really do have to question these couple weeks in London, why these people were approaching him. He says he was potentially recorded. There was audio potentially going on. It begs more questions on what the FBI was doing. Papadopoulos is a very low-level person. He barely, qualifies as anybody of any significance on that campaign. But what was the FBI doing, and who were their informants using, and was he used as a tool to get what they ultimately wanted, which was this FISA and to investigation into Trump?
So let's start where Jason and I agree. I agree that everything should be out on the table. All of the information about the Russian hack should be on the table. Who in the Trump campaign knew about it, and who that information was shared about it. And if the FBI used inappropriate tactics at any point, I think that should be fully investigated as well. We should have that on the table. The timeline isn't so mysterious when you go back.
Yeah, but the problem was the Democrats didn't cooperate. The Democrats didn't cooperate with a lot of this stuff.
let's go one little segment at a time, if we can, Jason. I mean, the timeline between March and say July, when he is in Europe and meeting with surrogates, is not that ambiguous. And it's pretty clear what was going on in terms of the Russians sharing information with him. What is questionable is the helper.
Said. The FBI told
you're
Congress
talking about
they
something
didn't
later
start
on.
this thing until the end of July.
Not true. It was
said they
started
didn't.
before that.
We gotta leave it there. But we're gonna follow this because I know that Adam Schiff and Trey Gowdy also interested in hearing what he has to say. As you say, he's already dinged his credibility, but they would like to listen to whatever he has to tell them. Gentlemen,
it's not
thank you.
It's not going to be good for Trump.
Thank you. We'll see. Thank you very much. Good to see you both.